Stop. If you believe in the unstoppable power of a woman to rebuild a life from the ashes, hit that like button right now. Your likes fuel our channel. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the human heart. 7 years exact. The late afternoon sun was a dense, almost blinding blue, pressing against the ancient, ornate Victorian rooftops of San Francisco. The narrow, curving streets of North Beach, like unresolved memories, buzzed with the hurried sounds of tourists and locals. Laughter, camera clicks, the distant clang of the cable cars. And moving through this historically charged scene was Alexander "Alex" Thorne. He walked with no destination, his shoulders rigid, hands jammed into the pockets of his tailored charcoal coat, a slight frown etched on his brow. His phone vibrated ceaselessly, but he ignored it. Not today. It was the anniversary of his divorce, 7 years to the day since he signed those papers with cold hands and black ink. Alex had allowed himself this walk through North Beach purely out of instinct, or perhaps as a form of self-punishment. He'd avoided these streets ever since Sierra left, ever since her name became a ghost, whispering through the empty windows of his luxury loft. He stopped outside a vintage bookstore, pulling out a worn copy of a forgotten American poet. He flipped through it without reading. The paper smelled of time. Poetry no longer touched him. It was then that everything inside him stopped. Not time itself, but something internal. An invisible force turned his face, as if a silent hand pressed against his chin, and he saw her. There she was, just a few feet away, walking in the opposite direction. Sierra. The name formed in his mind with the contained weight of a physical blow. She hadn't seen him yet. She was distracted, holding the hand of a boy who had to be 5, maybe 6 years old. The boy was looking around with serene curiosity, a slight frown on his brow, as if trying to absorb the entire world. Alex felt his knees give an inch. The boy was his portrait, not a vague, generic resemblance. Was this his son? Those intense, brown eyes, too large for his face, that slightly arched brow, like someone who carries questions he doesn't yet know how to ask. The firm chin, the secure, loose way he walked, the slight forward lean of his neck, as if he was always listening to what wasn't being said. Sierra glanced to the side and saw him. There was no fear, no startle, no attempt to flee. She simply paused for a fraction of a second. Her eyes locked onto his with an unreadable, silent force. It wasn't rage or dread. It was something harder. A wall of silence between two worlds that once loved, and now looked at each other as strangers. Alex took a step. His heart pounded so hard he felt his temples throb. He opened his mouth. The word was coming. "Sierra?" He tried, but the sound didn't reach his lips. She tightened her grip on the boy's hand, looked away, and started walking. Not fast, not rushed, but with an irreversible decision, like someone quietly closing a door. Alex wanted to run, to shout, to call out the boy's name that he didn't even know, but his legs disobeyed him. They were nailed to the sidewalk, like the roots of a rotten tree. Everything inside him screamed, but his body refused to react. The crowd swelled. Tourists, students, a laughing couple, a barking dog. And in seconds, she was gone. Vanished like smoke in the middle of the street. He leaned against a stone wall, fighting for breath. His chest ached. Not like a heart attack, but as if someone had wrenched his ribs open with bare hands and torn something out. He tried to rationalize. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe the boy just resembled him. Children look alike. But then he remembered the eyes. Those brown eyes, identical to his at the same age. And there was no way to pretend. Alexander Thorne, renowned architect, son of one of the most powerful real estate families in New York. He stood frozen in the middle of the street like any ordinary man, facing an old wound that never healed, and that was now bleeding again. Deeper, more real. The crack. The day the foundation failed. Before the crack, before the silence, before Liam, there was a woman trying to hold together what was already collapsing. Sierra used to wake up early. She'd make coffee. She'd set the table with 2 mugs, even when he left without touching either. To try was the verb she conjugated most often alone in those days. To try to smile, to try to talk, to try to get Alex to look at her the way he looked at his glass and concrete projects, with fascination. But his eyes had become maps of a foreign land. There was no path left. Only walls. Alex would come home late, always smelling of cigarette smoke and boredom. He said he was overloaded with the new competition, the firm, the pressure from his father. But Sierra knew. He was overloading himself with his own coldness. She felt like noticing a leak in the roof, that something in their house was crumbling from within. That morning, a fine rain was hitting the windows of their luxury Upper East Side penthouse in New York. Sierra looked in the mirror, sunken eyes, dry lips. She decided not to cry. She showered. She pulled her hair back. She grabbed a coat. And she left. She carried a bag with fresh croissants and an envelope. Inside, a small, symbolic gift. A sketch of the project they designed together in their first month of marriage. They never built it. But Sierra kept it. It was more than a blueprint. It was memory. "I'm going to the firm. I'm going to surprise him," she said aloud. To no one, perhaps just to convince herself, she took the subway. Got off near Rockefeller Center and walked toward the building that housed the architecture firm, Thorne and Associates. She climbed 3 flights of stairs. Her heart wasn't beating fast. It was shrinking. The hallway was silent. The main door was slightly ajar. She pushed the door open with her fingers and entered slowly. His voice was the first thing. Low, hoarse, laughing. "If we keep this up, we're going to end up designing the wrong kind of bed," she heard the other woman say, stifled by laughter. Then, through an image, she saw Alex sitting at the drafting table, his shirt half open, the secretary's fingers running between the buttons. She saw the 2 of them close, laughing. She saw the other woman's hand slipping around his neck, as if she already knew the way. She saw the body that was once hers, belonging to another presence, and something in her snapped. But in silence, Sierra didn't scream. She didn't run. She didn't slam the door shut. She simply backed away. She walked down the 3 flights of stairs with chilling dignity. The bag of croissants was still in her hand. The envelope, too. She left the building like someone abandoning a burning house. On the outside, she was intact. On the inside, there was no roof or floor left. She hailed a cab and never looked back. That night, Alex returned home as always, late, tired, not looking at her. He found a cold dinner on the table and a letter on the plate. 3 lines. "I don't want explanations. I want distance. I want a divorce." She wasn't in the bedroom, or the bathroom, or the house. The next day, Sierra's lawyer called. 2 days later, the separation papers were filed. And for the first time in years, Alex perceived the silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of someone who is never coming back. Interactive question 1. Sierra made a split-second decision to leave without confronting Alex. Do you think her silent exit showed supreme strength, or was it a lost opportunity to speak her truth and defend herself? Share your thoughts in the comments. Click the like button if you think she made the right choice. The secret. Liam and the Thorne family. Threat. The news arrived without warning. A mild late spring day. A missed cycle. A strange feeling. A sharp intuition. She bought a test and waited alone in the bathroom of the house she had already left. The two lines appeared with cruel speed. Unmistakable. She was pregnant. She was not alone. She never would be again. She sat on the cold floor. She touched her flat stomach, and she whispered, without knowing why, "You arrived." But an old shadow covered everything. A memory flashed through her mind. Clear, direct, threatening. "If you ever get pregnant and we split up, I'll take that child from you. The Thorns have power. Never forget that." He had said it one night during an argument, long before the betrayal. She thought it was an exaggeration. But now, with those two lines on the test, the phrase resonated with a different gravity. It was the memory of the man he truly was. She knew what the Thorns were capable of. She knew the power of Alex's father, their connections to judges, their influence, the way they silenced scandals. She understood. She couldn't stay. The decision came one sleepless night. She took inventory. She had little money saved. A gold bracelet from her grandmother. Few clothes. And the instinct to protect the tiny heart beating inside her. She called her mother, who lived in a small town upstate New York. She only said, "I have to leave. Today." Silence on the other end. Then, a brief reply. Yes, she packed in an hour. Documents, the pregnancy test, hidden between the pages of a book. She left before dawn. She called a cab. She didn't look back. She boarded the bus. She sat near the window, wrapped in her coat. As the vehicle pulled away, the streets of New York slowly faded. She arrived upstate by noon. Her mother was at the door. She hugged her without asking questions, without demanding explanations. Just hugged her, hard, silent, present. Sierra cried. Finally. A muffled, desperate cry. In the first few days, she didn't leave her room. She slept a lot, or little. She spent hours with her hand on her belly. Her mother cooked for two. She spoke little. She knew that silence could also be a hug. When she finally spoke, it was a Sunday. "Do you want to tell him?" Sierra took a long time to answer. Then she shook her head. "I can't. He's the father. He's the danger." Her mother didn't insist. Sierra Vaughn, the architect of her own life. Weeks turned into months. Her belly grew, and with it, her strength. Sierra found a small technical drawing course offered by a local NGO. She started attending. Then she got an internship at a modest architecture studio in upstate New York with a kind, widowed architect who taught her more than any university. There, she wasn't the ex-wife of the Thorn heir. She was just Sierra Vaughn. Talented, thirsty for a fresh start. The pregnancy was difficult. Nausea, insomnia. But she endured. Every beat of the baby's heart was a reminder that she was alive. Liam was born on a hot September afternoon. The labor was long, and when she finally held him in her arms, everything around her fell silent. There was no pain, only him. His eyes opened, brown, immense, and they looked at her as if they already knew her. "You really arrived." That night, she wrote a single sentence in her diary. From now on, everything is for him, and she kept her word. From the day she first held Liam, Sierra never doubted again. She learned to use fear as fuel, every step, every achievement. She took it with the firm hands of someone carrying their own world in their lap. Liam grew up surrounded by affection. There were no luxuries, but there was solid ground. There was no powerful surname, but there was a clean, honest name. Sierra learned to make lentil soup in silence, to deal with night fevers, to tell stories of enchanted worlds. At 2 years old, she secured him a spot in the municipal daycare. Sierra started working full-time at the same studio where she had interned, now as a project assistant. 3 years later, She obtained a partial scholarship to the State University School of Architecture. At night, she would sit in the living room and sketch while Liam slept. She had learned to transform absence into a foundation, pain into concrete. She told no one about Alex. Her university classmates imagined her widowed. Some thought she was a single mother by choice. Sierra didn't correct them. At the age of 5, Liam asked, "Mom, why don't I have a dad?" Sierra knelt down, held his face in her hands, and replied, "Because you have me, and I never left you." Liam leaned his head on her shoulder. In her final year of university, she presented her thesis, a sustainable social housing project for single mothers. The jury applauded. She left the classroom with the feeling of having rebuilt everything that had once been demolished. With her first steady salary, she rented a small apartment just for them. 2 bedrooms, a narrow hallway, a balcony where she planted basil and lavender. She won. And she didn't need anyone to see it for it to be true. But now? Someone saw. The return, trespassing on her ground. The image of the boy wouldn't leave Alex's mind. So vivid it hurt. It was the truth. He hired someone discreet to investigate. He asked them to track down Sierra, but without invading her privacy. 2 days later, he received an envelope in his hand. Upstate New York, Sanford neighborhood. Her mother's name as the tenant. The boy's school. A registration photo. Name, Liam Vaughn. He didn't carry his surname, but the face was enough. Alex sat still, the document on the table, like someone looking at the record of a life he never participated in. He called his chauffeur. He asked him to prepare the car for a trip. "I need time to think," he said. But what he wanted, deep down, was time to undo. The drive to upstate was long. He didn't speak during the 4-hour journey. He only watched the landscape change. He arrived at the address. He climbed the steps with silent strides. The doorbell was simple. He rang it once and waited. When the door opened, the image before him disarmed him. Sierra, her face more mature, but the eyes, the same. She didn't seem surprised. She looked at him like someone who had already expected this moment. "Alex," she said, without emotion. "He's my son, isn't he?" The question came out like a stone. Only the truth. Sierra didn't look away. She took a deep, steady breath. "Yes, Liam is your son, but he is my world." The words fell between them like a verdict. "Why didn't you tell me? Do you remember what you told me? A year before everything ended? If you ever get pregnant and we split up, I'll take that child from you. The thorns have power. Never forget that." Alex closed his eyes. He remembered. The phrase was real. He said it in anger. He never thought she'd take it seriously. "Sierra, You don't have to explain yourself," she interrupted. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because he needs me whole. And I could only be whole away from you. Can I see him?" She hesitated for the first time. "He's at the park with my mother. He'll be back in half an hour. You can see him. But don't confuse things." "What things?" She looked at him deeply and replied, "You can be a father, but I am everything he knows, and I won't allow that to change." Alex nodded. There was no room for dispute, only one possible path: to enter the other's territory with respect. And he, finally, was ready to tread carefully. Sierra stepped aside, giving him space to enter. And so, without rituals, without hugs, without promises, the story began to reopen. Final reflection and call to action. Alex walked into Sierra's apartment with the feeling of invading a sanctuary. It was a modest space, but clean, alive. He saw what Sierra meant. The future wasn't about redemption. It was about responsibility. Standing next to this woman he once loved, he finally understood that she wasn't just the mother of his child. She was unbreakable, and that he could never buy. He understood that everything Sierra built, the balance, the clarity, The unconditional love is not bought, nor inherited. It is only earned. And he had arrived too late. Interactive question. Tell me now, if you were in Sierra's place, would you have done the same? Would you have fled without telling him about the pregnancy? Comment below. I honestly want to know what you would do. And if this story has touched you in any way, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Click here for part 2, The Architecture of Redemption. Alex's plan. Responsibility, not control. The Architecture of Redemption. Part 2, The Architecture of Redemption. Alex's plan. Responsibility, not control. We're back with the most requested continuation. If you thought Alexander Thorne's revelation was the end, you were wrong. The real story is what a powerful man does when his power means nothing compared to the quiet strength of the woman he betrayed. If you're rooting for Alex to finally step up, give this video a thumbs up. The new blueprint. Responsibility, not control. Alex left Sierra's small apartment that day, carrying a heavier burden than any financial loss. The weight of his own failure. The realization that Sierra had built a life, a superior life, without him, was a profound shock to his system. He returned to San Francisco, but the towering glass office of Thorne and Associates now felt cold, sterile, and empty. Meaning, he realized he couldn't simply buy his way back into Liam's life, nor could he buy Sierra's forgiveness. His redemption required an entirely different kind of architecture, one built on service, transparency, and respect. The first thing Alex did wasn't about Sierra, but about cleaning up his own foundation. He quietly cut ties with several influential, but morally questionable partners who had been the source of his father's and his own arrogance. He restructured his firm, redirecting a significant portion of its resources toward a new social impact division. He knew where to start. Sierra's thesis. He found the public records of her award-winning sustainable social housing project for single mothers. It was brilliant, practical, and desperately needed funding. He didn't call her. He didn't email. He chose the slow, respectful approach. He contacted the NGO where Sierra worked, presenting himself strictly as an interested investor and architect looking to fund a pilot program upstate. He used his connections to expedite permits and secure a large, suitable piece of land, all the while meticulously concealing his identity as the final benefactor. He was simply an anonymous resource, clearing the bureaucratic weeds so Sierra's vision could grow. An unexpected partnership 3 months later, Sierra called him. Her usually calm voice was tinged with disbelief. "Alex," she began, formal and guarded. "I just received the confirmation for the upstate pilot project. It's fully funded, and the land acquisition is complete. It's moving faster than I've ever seen. The anonymous donor is strictly demanding we adhere to the original design. My design. Do you know anything about this?" Alex leaned back in his leather chair, a genuine, unpracticed smile touching his lips for the first time in years. "I know of the project. It's exceptional work, Sierra. It deserves to be built." "It's more than deserved. It's a miracle," she countered. The paperwork mentions a consulting architect from an undisclosed firm who advocated fiercely for the design's integrity. They insisted that the project lead, Sierra Vaughn, must have total creative control. "Was it you?" Alex sighed, knowing he couldn't lie. "The person they spoke to was me. It was the least I could do, considering my firm, my family, has always built for the privileged. Your work is what architecture ought to be." Sierra was silent for a long moment. It wasn't the silence of fear, but of processing. "You used your power to clear a path, not to block it," she finally said. "That's a new architecture for me, Sierra. It's a necessary one," he admitted. This led to a tacit agreement. Alex never mentioned Liam in connection with the project. Sierra never asked for more funding. They began to meet regularly, but strictly in the professional realm. Site visits, engineering reviews, and municipal presentations. Alex wore simple work boots instead of his expensive Italian loafers. He listened more than he spoke. He saw Sierra in her element, sharp, decisive, and commanding the respect of seasoned contractors. She wasn't just surviving. She was creating impact, building the bridge back to Liam. The professional collaboration naturally softened the edges of their personal divide. Sierra, seeing Alex consistently prioritize her mission, slowly allowed him small increments of time with Liam. It started with supervised visits to the park. Then it progressed to him dropping Liam off at his upstate school. Alex never overstepped. He brought simple gifts like rare geology books or a set of high-quality colored pencils. He simply talked about Liam's world, the texture of the soil, the mechanics of the city's trolley system, the logic behind the universe. Liam, in turn, began to trust this quiet, new man. He didn't see the CEO. He saw the person who could draw cool bridges and explain why the Eiffel Tower was metal and not glass. One Saturday, while they were at the local hardware store buying supplies for a birdhouse project, Liam, staring at a bag of cement mix, asked, "Dad, why do buildings need foundations?" Alex knelt down, meeting his son's eyes. "Buildings need foundations, Liam, because a foundation is what you put in first. It's the strong, honest part that no one sees, but it has to hold up everything else. The walls, the roof, the windows. If the foundation is weak, the whole house will fall apart in a storm." Liam nodded in understanding. "My house has a very strong foundation, right, Dad?" Alex paused, a lump in his throat. He thought of Sierra, the concrete she poured with her own hands. "Yes, Liam. Your house has the strongest foundation I've ever seen. Your mother built it to last forever." Interactive question. For Alex is starting to understand that true strength is silent. What do you think is the biggest lesson he learned from watching Sierra build her life from the rubble? Give us your reflection in the comments. The final foundation. A year after the emotional confrontation, the social housing project was nearing completion. On Inauguration Day, Sierra stepped up to the podium. She gave a powerful speech about dignity, self-sufficiency, and the importance of having a safe place to land after a storm. Alex stood at the back of the crowd, watching. He saw Liam, nestled close to Sierra's mother, applauding fervently. He saw Sierra radiating the quiet confidence of a true leader. At the reception, Sierra approached him. "The board insisted on recognizing the anonymous donor," she said, her eyes challenging him. "They wanted a plaque, a dedication ceremony. I told them no, but I think you should know. The first building in the complex, the community center, is officially named the Vaughn Center." Alex's eyes widened. "Sierra, that's incredible. You deserve that." The lead donor finally conceded, but they left one condition, she continued, a slight, genuine smile finally reaching her eyes. They insisted the dedication plaque for the entire project state, built on a foundation of integrity and commitment. They said it was a non-negotiable term. Alex nodded, recognizing his own words. "I can live with that." She put down her glass, her voice low and intimate. "Alex, you never asked for anything. You simply gave. You gave Liam time, and you gave me respect. That's more than any inheritance." She paused. Then she handed him a set of keys, simple silver keychains. "My mother is moving into the dedicated family unit of the community complex. Liam and I are staying in our small apartment upstate. These are the keys to the new playground. Liam wants you to help him finish building the final foundation for the swing set tomorrow morning. He says you're better at mixing concrete than anyone he knows." Alex looked at the keys. Not the ornate brass key to his past, but simple silver keychains that smelled faintly of new metal and possibility. A key to the simple, hard work of being present. "I'll be there," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He understood. He didn't get Sierra back, not in the romantic sense. He earned something better, a clean slate, a shared purpose, and a small, hard-won place in his son's real world. Tipto Cochuenve Part Y, La Prueba Definitiva de Integridad. Part 3, The Ultimate Test of Integrity. The story is far from over. Just when Alex and Sierra thought they had found their peace, a final, ruthless challenge arrives from the very past they tried to escape. This time, the battle isn't for love, but for the soul of the Thorn legacy. Do you think Alex can resist the power of his surname one last time? Tell me your prediction in the comments. Subscribe and hit the bell to see if your prediction is right. The Return of the Matriarch. 6 months after the inauguration of the Vaughn Center, the new rhythm of life was steady. Shared parenting, professional respect, and a quiet, unassuming affection between Alex and Sierra. An affection built on shared purpose. However, the silence of the Thorn family matriarch, Eleanor Thorn, was not a sign of peace, but of plotting. One cold afternoon, Alex received a call for an urgent meeting at the family's private club in Manhattan. He entered the reserved lounge to find his mother, impeccable and severe as always, seated across from the family's chief counsel. But the biggest surprise was the large, leather-bound folder on the table. "Alex, your father's health has deteriorated rapidly. Doctors give him 6 months at most," Mrs. Eleanor declared, omitting all pleasantries. "The family trust requires a seamless transition of power." She tapped the folder. "This is the official deed to Thorn and Associates, the controlling shares of the entire Thorn global real estate empire, and the keys to the family trust presidency." Alex stared at the fortune before him, the very kingdom he had renounced. "I thought your sister Daniela was the designated successor." "Daniela wants to raise goats in the Adirondacks," Mrs. Eleanor sneered. "She lacks the necessary ruthlessness. You, Alex, have always possessed the architect's vision and the Thorn ambition. You simply misdirected it. It's time to come home, son. The power you abandoned is waiting." The power was intoxicating. It was everything he had trained for. With this, he could fund all of Sierra's projects 10 times over, shield Liam from all future worries, and change the global landscape overnight. But the condition, unspoken yet palpable, hung heavily in the air. "And what about my social impact division? What about the Vaughn Center?" Alex asked, his voice firm. Mrs. Eleanor's face tightened. "Charity is best left to foundations, not the controlling entity. You will dissolve that frivolous division and cease this public farce of co-parenting with that Vaughn woman. The Thorn heir does not build playgrounds with ex-secretaries." The ultimatum was clear. The crown or the conscience. The architect's counter-proposal. Alex walked out of the club with the folder in his hands, feeling the cold weight of the empire. He drove to the Vaughn Center. He found Sierra in the sunny communal kitchen, reviewing blueprints while Liam drew quietly beside her. He placed the imposing folder on the simple wooden table. "My mother just offered me everything. The presidency, the empire, all the power of the Thorn name," he stated, his eyes fixed on hers. "The condition is that I dissolve the social impact division and cut all non-essential ties with you and Liam." Sierra didn't flinch. She simply finished marking a dimension on her blueprint. Then she looked up. Her eyes were serene. "And what did you say, Alex?" "I needed time to consider the best use of the assets," he replied. "I wasn't lying. I had a plan, one that risks everything. I just need one thing from you, Sierra. Your trust and your total commitment to a plan that will burn down my world, but solidify yours." Sierra slid the folder back across the table. You have my trust, Alex. I already watched you burn down your world for the right reasons once. Show me the new blueprint. The next day, Alex returned to the private club. Mrs. Eleanor was waiting, flanked by lawyers. I accept the presidency and the power, Alex announced, his voice ringing with the authority they demanded. But there is a condition on my part. He presented a contract. It was meticulously drafted. I will take the reins, but the Thorn Trust will immediately endow the Vaughn Foundation with a non-revocable, legally untouchable fund. This fund will be administered solely by Sierra Vaughn and her board, dedicated to building social housing and urban renewal projects, operating completely outside the Thorn global structure. It will be the single largest philanthropic donation in the family's history, and it will be non-negotiable. Mrs. Eleanor was furious. You're giving away family money to that little project. I am investing in this family's future legacy, Mother. Unlike you, I understand that the true power of the Thorn name must reside in its integrity and its service, not its ruthlessness. I will take the power, but I will use it to support the foundation, which embodies the principles I believe in. This is the new Thorn legacy, and it starts now, with the Vaughn Foundation. Take it or leave it, but know this: if you refuse, the entire firm will see the internal documents detailing your past attempts to illegally separate me from my son. I will take the power, or I will take the truth. You choose. Faced with the certain public and legal ruin Alex held in his hands, Mrs. Eleanor's resolve finally crumbled. She signed. Her hand trembled, not from weakness, but from the suppressed fury of her defeat. A new foundation, a new love. Alex took control, but he used it for good. In 1 year, he implemented his vision. Thorn Global focused on sustainable urban development, and the Vaughn Foundation became the standard-bearer for compassionate architecture. One rainy Saturday, after dropping Liam off at a friend's house, Alex and Sierra found themselves standing in the empty original community room of the Vaughn Center. They were both soaked, laughing at the chaos of the day. You won, Alex, Sierra said softly, looking up at him. You took the crown, but you made it serve conscience. I never thought I'd see the day. I didn't win, Sierra. We built a foundation that finally holds, he corrected, reaching out and gently touching her cheek. You taught me that integrity is the only material that doesn't crack under pressure. He didn't pull out a diamond ring. He didn't offer a grand gesture. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn piece of tracing paper, the same sketch of the project they designed together in their first month of marriage, the one she carried with her the day she left. I want to build this now, Sierra. Not a firm building, but a home for us, designed by us, built on honesty. No secrets, no conditions, just a foundation of truth. Sierra's eyes filled with tears. She didn't cry then, but she did now. Not for pain, but for the realization that the old Alex was finally and completely gone. The design is perfect, she whispered, and the site is exactly where we're standing. They kissed, not with the urgency of their lost youth, but with the quiet, deep promise of two architects finally ready to build their authentic, shared life. The story of Alex and Sierra became a legend, a testament that it takes true power to let go of control, and that the strongest legacy is not measured in wealth, but in the honest, quiet presence and love you leave behind. Conclusion. Meaningful and final call to action. The story of Alex and Sierra teaches us that true power lies in letting go of control and in the humility to rebuild. Sierra's strength did not come from wealth, but from silence and the fight for her son. And that forced Alex to recognize that integrity is the only unbreakable foundation. What kind of name do you think Alex and Sierra should give their new home, symbolizing both their past betrayal and their future unity? Share your creative name ideas in the comments. If this story inspired you to believe in second chances and true transformation, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us tell more stories that move and inspire. Thank you.